like they had a battle with time. And lost.
Heart, lungs, liver, everything.
What is it?
They died of natural causes.
Natural causes? What in nature could cause that?
For the record, Captain, they died of old age.
Increase to full power!
Gives me the creeps. I feel like something's watching us.
Savick, you go right on quoting regulations.
Hello, computer.
I knew I would.
You betrayed your uniform!
Target their cargo hold. Time to take out the garbage.
Smooth as an android's bottom, eh, Data? I beg your pardon, sir. Inspires to be better than I am. Come on, it's gonna be fun.
5 years in space. God help me.
This is the best day of my life!
A phaser? You didn't use it? Swords are fun.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Okay. Welcome back to another Trek review, where each week we talk about Star Trek. And this week, we're talking about episode 7 of season 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation. And episode 7 is entitled Unnatural Selection. And Caleb can tell you the facts.
Yeah, just so send those over from the shuttle pod to Med Bay here, and I'll be able to read those down.
Type it in here. All right, that should be to you.
Perfect. All right, yeah, here they are. So it originally aired January 30th, 1989. It was written by John Mason and Mike Gray. It was directed by Paul Lynch, who also directed a little episode called The Naked Now and the Binar episode. So 2 good episodes.
2 great episodes.
Which kind of explains this episode. The synopsis for Unnatural Selection is the Enterprise investigates the deaths of the crew of the U.S. Lantry, who all died of old age. We had some guest stars this week.
Patricia
Smith is Dr. Sarah Kingsley. The return of Colm Meaney, but specifically this time as Miles O'Brien. J. Patrick McNamara, Captain Taggart, and Scott Trost, who played Ensign. So why did he switch over to Miles O'Brien this episode? Any idea?
Yes, I do actually know. We'll get into it in trivia. I think it's in trivia. If it's not, then I'll tell you when we get to trivia.
Okay. Just curious, because that's how I know him. It's Miles O'Brien.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. So that was our intro. But before we go into supporters and new subscribers to the channel, let's go to Caleb and have Caleb keep talking and tell us what he thought of the episode.
I actually really enjoyed this episode. How's that for a switch?
I like it.
It was good. It finally felt like we're getting some traction in this season. Even though Pulaski's not like my favorite character, I actually enjoyed her this episode.
Okay.
It was nice to see a doctor kind of stick to her roots and also kind of take one for the team.
Yeah. She did definitely pull some like RPG house stuff. So yeah.
She did. I think it's cool to see her and Picard getting along better. And also kind of understanding that they're very similar characters. They're both very driven and passionate about what they believe in. I enjoyed all that stuff. And her taking the risk and putting nobody else at risk, for me, really kind of endeared her to me as a doctor.
I like it.
I was pretty confident she was not going to die this episode because there's still a lot of season left. And there's no talks of bringing back the other doctor yet, so
not yet.
Yeah, and as per usual, the transporter is capable of many amazing abilities, but that's a whole other topic for discussion.
I can imagine.
But yeah, I liked it. I'll give it 2 Akutas.
Wow.
Yeah.
2 Akutas.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I don't. It would be really funny if this ends up being the highest rated episode for you, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
But
I also can't
I'm
wait
glad.
for everybody to be like, "Oh, this episode sucks."
I don't think so. I think everybody would probably rate this as an Akuda.
I feel like this episode so far is the most grounded episode where the story has a start to end point and everything that happens makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of episodes that we've covered that are like, well, why did they do that?
Yeah.
Why did they go to
I can kind of agree with that. And I think when I looked into it was like John something and Mike Gray. When I looked into it, like who those guys were, I literally think this is their one and only time they write for the show.
Wow, that's crazy.
Like they wrote for other shows, like other things, but yeah. There's a couple things in it. I think for myself with Pulaski and Picard that I'm not in love with, but I think overall, I didn't dislike the episode. So, well, that is what Caleb thought of the episode. But before we start the review, let's talk about our new subscriber. Who's that, Caleb? Let me send that to you.
Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. It says here that is the Antics 187.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for subscribing. The Antics 187. We appreciate that. And the next thing that we're going to do, take off my hat here and give him a good yeah. Salute to Ed Mark Starr for being our Patreon supporter. We appreciate him doing that and making sure that when we beam over anything that's contagious, he's making sure the force fields are working primo. But because Ed Mark Starr is a Patreon supporter, he gets his comment read during the podcast. And so Caleb has his transmission in the med lab.
Yes, I do. He says, time for my confession. The Next Generation featured a super android named Data as a crew member. Yippee. And yet the series progresses with hints that no consideration was given to Data's origin. Yeah, that is true. As a result, any episodes that involved details about Data feels uneven or poorly rendered. The Schizoid Man lends to Data a fantasy quality. Data is an enchanted android whose operating system is like magic. This appears to be the conceptual level of the writers as well as the studio producing management. Every episode becomes let's play with Data because Brent Spiner is such a great actor. Yeah, we talked about that last time too. Like, that's what it is. It's like, well, he's really great. Let's just make him do all this stuff.
Like everything, yeah.
Yeah, and his like level of abilities decreases or increases based on the story that they want to tell.
Yeah.
I know it's pretty lame sometimes, honestly. He says, for me, the space soap opera-like tone of the Schizoid Man reveals why TNG became so popular. Fans wanted character-driven stories with an emotional tug that's not sci-fi heavy. This is nothing new. Some of the best episodes of The Twilight Zone and Outer Limits highlight the human struggle, separate and apart from scientific exploration. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yep.
That's cool. He says, in summary, I had no issues with The Schizoid Man when it aired in 1989, but when I tried to explain the episode with friends, the details came across as juvenile. Yeah, this old guy puts his brain in the main character, robot guy, and walks around the ship and then gets jealous that Picard likes his girl that worked for him. And then he gives up and now he's in the computer of the ship. Yeah, that sounds pretty. If that was the outline for the episode, that's like, oh, really? That sounds interesting. Yeah.
Don't think if I was at the lunch table with him and he was explaining the episode, I'd be like, I think I'm all right.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we thank you all for your comments, your subscriptions. We look forward to reading all of your other comments. That will be down here on the page below. We'll read about those on our Hailing Frequencies Open video, likely tomorrow. But without any further ado, let's get into the review. Yeah, all I had for the music intro, I wrote in my notes was "die."
Yeah.
When the captain is, they hail him and he's like, "No, ping," all those things. Made me
Tried to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Star Trek does love the idea of old people doing stuff, don't they?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So they reference in like the notes and stuff that one, the first thing that they point at is an episode from the original series called, I think it's called The Deadly Years.
Mm.
And it's pretty much exactly this. They get infected with like an age thing and they all, Kirk and McCoy and I forget who else, they all like grow old. And then McCoy, basically what she ends up doing, that's what McCoy ends up doing. Like he ends up like risking his life to find a cure.
That's funny.
On the edge of death. And then the other one, we watched it and we covered it on the channel, is the animated series, and it was the Lorelei segment. They have those crowns on their head and those ladies like suck their life force.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. Yep. And then they did the other one where they went backwards in time.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we don't see a lot of Star Trek babies going forward, but
Star Trek babies.
I think we're still going to see Star Trek geriatrics, though.
Old people, they love the idea. Like, yeah, they love it. Yeah, because even the other episode in season 1 where the admiral is old and then turns young.
Right, exactly.
They like doing old people makeup.
Yeah. So I don't know. The intro was good. I really had like very little issue with the thing, and there wasn't really too much there because it was like they get that. I mean, the whole like transmission to them of them being like you said, like we tried, dying. Like that was it. Like that was the hook to get you to watch the episode. So I don't remember there being a lot of stuff worth talking about in the first part, the cold open. So I like the fact that Geordi comes up to the bridge and he goes up to the council and he's like, engineering, like divert.
He transfers engineering to
the bridge. And it's like perfect.
Yeah, it was cool.
And I like it, but it's like, why? It's like they don't explain why Geordi's coming to the bridge.
No. Because he needs to see on the main screen what's going on the ship.
I guess so. It just was really funny because I think we come back and we immediately open on the turbo lift doors opening, and Geordi's coming onto the bridge, and then he goes over to the thing and he transfers, and then it just goes to Picard, and they're continuing the episode, and I was like,
yeah,
why Geordi?
It's one of those funny like carryover things from like TOS was that like the people would come onto the bridge to do their station
yes
because of like comms and stuff, because like for Scotty was in the bridge too, but Kirk would literally have to walk all the way over to the wall panel to talk to Scotty in the engineering bay. But in this time period when you can just do this, it's like you don't. Do you really need to transfer all of engineering's panels to?
Yeah.
And the other funny thing too is like you know how big engineering is.
Yeah,
it's huge, and there's like 40 people that work down there, but all that can just go right here. It's like, oh yeah, power levels are good.
It's his like QuickBooks reference to what's going on down there. It's the top 5 most problematic things of the ship.
It's his Google Doc sheet up there.
And like you said, I mean, really, in reality, what's he going to do? He's going to see that something's going down, and then he's going to go like this and say, Assistant Chief Engineer,
yeah,
what's happening here? And they're going to be like, oh, we don't know. This is happening. To be like, excuse me, Captain, I have to go to engineering. Like, that's literally what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Thought seeing the Lantry was pretty good. I enjoyed seeing the ship.
It was cool.
It was cool. I forgot what I had saw it on, but they talked about how the ships are upside down, so the models are on the tops, so the nacelles are pointing up.
Yeah,
and it's like held, and then they roll these cameras at the ship. So when we're watching the TV show and like the Enterprise is going overhead and we're looking at its belly and like the deflector dish, it's literally upside down and the camera is moving towards it. So I kind of was paying attention to this shot, and it doesn't feel bad, but I was like looking at it, and it kind of feels like the ship is here, and then they like roll up to the ship, kind of a thing, you know.
That's funny.
Which was a cool comparison of having the Enterprise like pull up slowly next to the Lantry. So that was kind of cool.
That's funny, like how they did that back then, because now it's like you could just have a stationary model,
right,
and then just animate the stars moving, you know, like on a screen.
Yeah. I mean, I think now they just 3D animate everything.
Everything is, yeah.
But those models are like, they're probably the size of like a small
huge
car. Yeah,
that's why there's a lot of detail and stuff on there.
Exactly. And
all the Aztecing.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot more now.
Yeah, it's very, very prevalent in Next Generation Aztecing. I like the overriding of the other ship. That was a good sequence. I liked all that. Get the codes. Picard goes into his ready room to have privacy to like
Beta Alpha freight car.
Omicron. Yeah.
Omicron. Yeah. Omicron Perseid. They get the bridge camera on the Lantry and they like zoom in and they're like, oh my God. But they zoom into the navigation guy and they're like, they zoom into the navigation guy first and they're like, oh man. And they're like, hey, that's probably the captain to the left of him. And then they zoom over and it's like, oh, you mean the guy in the captain chair? It's the same bridge. I bet you that's the captain in the middle chair.
It was hilarious because I had the same thing in my notes. So like, they have the comms guy. They zoom in, and it's like, of course, naturally they already look slumped over in the seats, anyways. When they have that broad shot, right?
They're clearly dead. Yeah.
So immediately you're like, okay, they're either dead or they're like unconscious. Which, as the audience, if I know that as the audience, they should know it as the crew. They zoom into the navigator or the ops guy, whatever, and it's like, okay, he's older looking, but like that doesn't mean anything. It's like, yes, there's not a lot of geriatric elderly people on the bridge, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you may not immediately think like that's weird unless you knew the guy who was in it. But when they pan to Captain Talaka, they pan to him, and it's like he is clearly like older, very much. Like you can immediately tell that he's older, like he's an elderly man. And then Picard's like, magnified. And they zoom into the guy's like head, and I was just like, why?
Yeah. Good Lord.
Why? Yeah. My God. Yeah, I don't know. It was just so funny. I think the other weird thing was, I hate to comment on it, but I think probably everybody was thinking the same thing. They clearly found a guy who just had like a ton of skin tags. Because
or they just glued a bunch on him.
Maybe, I don't know, but it was so weird because they're all like, oh no, they all died of natural causes. But like, sadly, the guy doesn't look like it. The main captain guy looks like he's like sick with something.
Yeah.
And I know that's like unfair to if the actor, probably the older actor who's just sleeping and like laying back in the chair. But it just like, it was a weird decision for them to be like, oh, that guy. It's like, he looks sick.
It's a fun casting, They're like, hey, so we need like a bunch of really old, disgusting looking people that we need to fill on the bridge, and we also need them from this med bay. Because they're supposed to be in
Yep.
their 20s, but we need like the most ugly old people we can find.
Is he ugly enough? Can he look dead? How close to death does he look?
Is too ugly a thing?
The one thing that I really took note of too before they went to the commercial break, and I was thinking, I want to remember this because obviously this is not the only time they come across derelict ships or ships of quarantine or, something bad happens to another crew. The whole process of how the protocol of how they quarantined the vessel, like they put the flasher things on, which also like did a little blipping ring noise on the Enterprise. It did this overhead, like overwrite comms thing where it would be like, danger, you're approaching a quarantine vessel, whatever it was saying. It was a cool thing. I forget that's how they handle stuff in TNG. And I was thinking, well, down the road when we go into other episodes, like, do they handle things the same way, or should we be thinking about it in that way? I don't know. It was an interesting protocol and like pacing of the episode.
Yeah. No, I liked it. I like the quarantine stuff too. Like you said, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, so commercial come back, and I thought it was really funny, like poorly written, I guess, that Picard is like super annoyed at the lady on Darwin Station that when he says what happened to the Lantry, because she's like, oh, we think a supply ship gave it to us. And he's like, yeah, that was the USS Lantry, and like all the people are dead. And she's like, oh, wow, okay, so we got to do all this stuff. And he's like, wait a minute, did you hear what I said? And she's like, yeah, I did, but we got a lot of problems over here now.
Yeah, we're also dying from that thing right now. Yeah.
I was like, so they're experiencing a bizarre medical emergency, and because she doesn't like bawl her eyes out or something. He's like,
yeah,
well, what the heck's wrong with you? This is so funny to me.
I know, that was funny. Like, what do you want her to do? Be like, oh man,
let's all take a moment of silence. We'll mourn for the next 12 hours. Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, yeah, that's great, but we need to figure this out here.
I appreciated that Picard listens to them all in the conference room scene. I thought it was weird that Data and Geordi weren't in the conference scene, but I appreciated when it was like, okay, how are we going to handle Darwin Station here? Worf's like, I say we don't do anything. We don't go over there and we don't contact them. And Riker's like same, and then Pulaski gives her point of view, and then Troy gives her point of view. I like that kind of stuff. We talked about it X amount of episodes ago, that like him listening to his senior staff and like considering things is like really good.
Yeah, I like that too. I like too that's kind of the issue he has with Pulaski is like I don't mind if you suggest things to me, but at least let me finish my friggin' sentence. But yeah, I like that. I like that Picard is open to, what everybody thinks about stuff.
And then we get full Chief O'Brien.
Yeah, he was in this episode a lot.
It was in this episode a lot. Yeah, it was nice. He's a great actor. I mean, Paul Meany is.
Yeah,
he's great. So I have no complaints about.
It's funny.
Him.
Yeah, it is funny seeing him in this. Like now, because I know him from other stuff, so it is funny, like going back and seeing like him in this back then.
Yeah, I thought the styrolite, that was interesting.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know how they filmed that.
I want to say that he must have had like cuts where his mouth and his nose are, and he had like a plastic thing over him.
Have to be, but it didn't. It looked like it was so. It was funny because like the chest and everything looked like it was, a couple inches away from his chest, and then the face was like molded to his face. I was like, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was thinking that, okay, in a couple shots when they're looking like down him, like looking forehead down to his like
Yeah.
chest, they must have like cut his nose or his mouth or something. But I assume when they did like the quick shots where they would do like a shot and they would look at him and they hold for like 5-10 seconds,
Yeah.
that they may have just placed the thing and they were just like, all right, dude, hold your breath. And then like they just slapped like this like big sheet of plastic that would cover just enough on camera. And then when they were like, okay, cut, they'd pull it off and he could breathe again. That's the only thing I could think of that they might have done. But there are definitely some shots where you're like, you know, especially here early on in the med bay, they're like kneeled down and they're like looking at him, and it's like the thing is right on his face, and it doesn't look computer generated. It doesn't seem like they like
it's not.
drew it in. Right.
The only thing I could really tell is that the table that he was on, they had like the carpet cut like around his head to fit his head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it almost
That's
looked
funny.
like he was laying on a thing, and then they have this whole thing like on top of him that like filled in. Because you could see where they had like cut the table to fit that plastic case like over him.
I wonder if they did that, like I was saying. I wonder if they did that so they knew exactly where to place it, and he knew exactly where to lay,
Yeah.
so that they didn't have to keep like they could get like master shots of like, okay, this looks good, this is a good shot, and then he just had to lay in that one spot, and everything was preset.
It would be very claustrophobic. It looked horrible to me.
Yeah, I mean, also like in the shuttle too, right? Like he's same thing there too. Now he's in a different area filming, and he's got this thing over him.
Yeah. And then when he got out, then he had to be in his underwear the whole time.
Yeah, I'm sure the guy loved it.
So that sounds great, you know?
Yeah, it does sound really good. Just lay here
I
all
like
day
it.
with this plastic over your face.
And he's like, "Oh, okay, but do I have to remember lines?" Like, oh no.
We're not paying you for that.
No. No, you're supposed to be 10.
Yeah, yeah, right. The thing that I thought didn't really make a lot of sense, but I'm not like a biologist, but I was thinking, okay, the disease clearly transfers airborne, right? Because like you just know from like how stuff's happening and how they're reacting on the ship. It's not like through contact or through like, spit or sneezing or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, got it. But if it's airborne, can't those molecules like land on like uniforms and stuff? So I was thinking like technically Data is like compromised because it's on his uniform. That's why they wear those like, when they go into the hazmat thing, they have like suits on them because that's how stuff works. It can go on your clothes. So that coupled with, I thought when O'Brien first was talking about putting the styrolite on the kid, he was like, well, yeah, we can do that. It's just going to be a couple microns before he shows up. And it's like, okay. But then I forget when they say it or what they do, but Darwin talks about how they put him in the styrolite. And then they just had to beam it up in that order so that, like, obviously he's not a giant plastic mess. But I was thinking, wouldn't the styrolite have like the disease on it because they're putting the person in it? Like,
Yeah, it would all around have stuff on it.
Right. That's how I was interpreting it, but I understand. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Like, if you write yourself too much into a corner, especially with like, diseases that are airborne and they're really, really contagious, it's like it gets to a point that if you write yourself too much into the hole, like you'll never do anything. It's like, well, it's too dangerous. You can't do anything.
Yeah, you're just toast at that point. It's very funny to me too that like the scientists never once thought like, hey, I wonder if like these things that we've genetically altered could be the cause of this disease. So also is like the Federation fine with human genetics now, or
So that's in trivia. Okay, so that's in trivia. Obviously, we'll cover it a little bit, maybe. So obviously, fans and other people like wrote in like, and they say that this is the first episode. Like this episode comes before all other episodes where they talk about like, oh, that's a terrible thing.
oh.
Because even when Khan shows up in both the movie and the episode, they don't refer to him. They don't refer to his engineering being like banned.
Yeah,
They
but
just
they fought wars on Earth during Khan being
yes,
on Earth, but so
yeah.
that's negated.
I mean, to a small credit, Pulaski does get a little perturbed and like concerned when she says it, but then the lady's like, not engineered, created. She
Yeah,
like
through
alters
science.
the right. And
Oh,
I'm like, maybe that was the writer's way of like trying to skim the edge of the con stuff, but I don't think so.
no, I don't think so. I think they play pretty fast and loose with that stuff.
Yes, yes. But they do say in like the fans and other people, they do say that like this episode has like a big red flag because at the end of the episode, like Picard should have arrested like all of Darwin Station.
Yeah, I don't. I get sick of the genetics war stuff
No, I
constantly too. Like I don't care about it. It doesn't.
no. They
It's
haven't done
just,
anything really interesting with it, so I agree with you.
but it's just one of those things where it's like, so everything is so far technologically advanced and everything's great. Science is
Yeah,
amazing, and then they wanted to make people like be born better and stronger, that kind of stuff. And they were
right.
like, "Whoa, oh, no, 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 no." Mm-mm. And that's become like such a taboo thing in this universe that like that's the worst
Yeah,
thing imaginable.
yeah. I I'm trying to think like going ahead, there might be one more episode of TNG where they make it a problem, but there's another show deals with it more heavily. And I don't know. I don't know what the background for that writing was, but
Yeah.
I do think that that is their what do you want to call it? Like their pony. Star Trek is like when they're scared and they think they're losing viewers, they pull out
Mhm.
Khan.
Yeah. I don't know why everybody has such a love relationship with the con stuff.
I like I said when we were watching the movie, it's like this is it. No one like the fandom overall, like 99% of the fandom
Yeah.
overall is just like the Wrath of Khan is like the movie. No other Star Trek movie beats it, and that's it. Like nothing is will be better than that.
I'm definitely in the minority
Oh yeah, I
because
don't hate the movie, but like I don't think it's the best movie.
there's a couple episodes of Enterprise too. I mean, Brett
Yes,
Spiner obviously is great,
yeah,
but I just was so disinterested in those like episodes about the
yeah, the
eugenics
augments.
stuff. Like, I just
Yeah,
don't care. I just don't care.
yep, I hear you.
It's
I
just like
totally
they
hear you.
just love it so much. The idea of these, superhumans. It's like, yeah, yeah, that's a thing
I
in
get it.
every sci-fi media. Can we just do something else? Like, there's no reason that like your scientific capabilities in this timeline could not have
Right,
humanity be like perfect and engineered to be perfect, and it's not a big deal. There's no reason that you're still struggling with like, oh, that's insane to
right,
manipulate genes. Like, no, no.
yeah.
What about? Remember, there's aliens. There's aliens out.
Remember the aliens that just show up with eyeballs and mouths and they control the ship? Let's be scared of those guys.
Eh.
Well,
Oh
this
well.
is the halfway point, so go down to the comment section and write Styrolite.
Oh yeah, that's what it was called. Just like styrofoam, but it's light
But it's
beams.
lighter. It's lighter.
Yeah,
Oh, light beams. Oh, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why it looks like plastic. It's not plastic. It's light.
So before we continue on with the review, we have a transmission from one of our Vietnam Capta players. You know him as Commander Arhat on our RPG. We know him as our friend Mike. Let's hear a little bit of what he has to say about the first half that we kind of just covered.
Yeah. And don't be surprised when you see that he's not actually blue.
The episode starts off with the ship sending out a distress call when they come across the Enterprise. I like how the Enterprise was able to gain remote access to the USS Lantry. Through the remote access, the Enterprise was able to piece together what had happened to the Lantry. The secondary issue was a conflict between Dr. Pulaski and Captain Picard, with Counselor Troy in the middle. Captain Picard wasn't sure if he could trust the Doctor. The Doctor wasn't sure why Captain Picard focused on the ship and not enough on the people. I did like the advice that Counselor Troy gave. Thought it was good, pointing out different aspects where they're both stubborn, they're both stuck in their ways, strong personality, and that they don't spend enough time with each other to understand each other. The last port the Lantry was at was Darwin Genetic Research Station. Yeah, Darwin. Everything was good till the 12-year-old was brought aboard the Enterprise. Styrolite covered the boy, and a force field surrounded him. They said that force fields fail, and this force field could fail, and yet no other precautions were taken, no biohazard suit, and 5 people were around the boy on the other side of the force field.
I like the part where he talked about it earlier, where he says that like they don't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like the part where they bump heads in his ready room, and then he's just like, whatever, just fine, just do it. And then she's like, what? And he's like, I get that you're trying to, work with me here. So
yeah, you're keeping me in the loop, which is, good.
Right. Right. Exactly.
You're trying to, yeah. It's just funny because I like that scene where she's walking with Deanna, and Deanna's like, I don't know how to reach the captain. Like, I just don't understand how he doesn't care about people and needs. And she's like, you don't really know the captain, because that's like his first and foremost thing is people and the ship and the crew and, the other 3,000 people that are on board, not the 4 people in the lab, But it's cool. It's cool, though. I like that.
The other thing that I liked that he said was the thing I had an issue with, which was him, like, nobody in biosuits.
Yeah.
Or anything of that nature. Like, and everybody's in the med bay. It's like, if this is so contagious, like, why are we not taking more precautions?
That was a good point. I appreciate that he is the head of security on our ship. And that's the main thing that he found with this episode was like, hey, so security protocol, like everybody would be in hazmat suits. Nobody would be in that room except for the doctor. Yeah. I was like, it's pretty good. I enjoy that he picked up on that stuff.
Right. Or like, because apparently since they were so concerned, put Data in there, right? Like have Data oversee it all. So yeah. Like that.
Yeah. No, just like, especially too, because they just spend so much time explaining that like their stuff fails, like their security stuff fails all the time. Their quarantine stuff, like, oh yeah, that could fail any second. We hit some turbulence, gone, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, anyway, bring the child aboard.
Well, we appreciate half of Mike's review. We'll conclude it after trivia. We know that it's a little with him delivering a pre-recorded thing. It's not as fun having him here, but he's on vacation, so can't fault the guy for that.
He's on Ryzen.
So I thought it was really interesting that the writers didn't. So since they're writing Pulaski to be so much like Bones and Data to be so much like Spock, like to have that rapport, I found it really interesting that they don't write that to Picard and her. Because like Kirk and Bones go back and like they go at it with each other, but it always ends with like either McCoy going like, "Ah, Jim," and like giving him a drink, or Kirk like smirking at him and being like, and he says some sort of off the cuff like doctor joke and then walks out of the room. And I found it really interesting that like Picard and Pulaski, like they're just two opposite ends of the spectrum people. Like they don't get along.
Yeah, I enjoy that. There's a lot of other things that she does that mirrors Bones, but her relationship with the captain is not one of them, you know,
It
which
isn't,
is nice.
It's same. I like it. It just was like it surprised me because you would think you're mirroring Bones in like every other aspect. It's like, but this one, like, no, of course not.
I like that though because I think that like her and the captain are both very similar. Picard's not like he's not arrogant, but he's very, and I think she kind of is sometimes. But I think they're both very driven.
Yes, exactly.
And they both care very much about their specific thing.
Yes, 100%. And I think that when either one of them make a decision to the best of their ability, they think it's the right decision. And when they make it, they expect it to be followed.
Yeah. And the thing is too, and why that works is because like in situations like the doctor does have like control of the ship if it's bad enough.
Yeah. I mean,
so it's
totally.
like they both are responsible for the crew.
I want to say, other than like chain of command things, like she's really the only person that can take Picard out. Like she could just kind of blankly say like, no, he's not fit to captain the ship. So like she does have some authority over Picard.
She does, yeah.
I found the stretch here towards the end, like it was a little hard to like her. I don't dislike what they're doing with the character. I get it. I get the point of the episode. But it was very hard to like root for her, which is kind of what you want in this episode. Is like, come on, Pulaski, like don't be an idiot and don't be a big jerk. Like, show the other side of you, like why you're in Starfleet. And I was like, there were a couple scenes here in this stretch. I was like, you're not making it easy.
I like when Picard calls like the old captain that she was on.
Yes.
And you get that little backstory of like, oh yeah, she specifically wanted to go to the Enterprise because of Picard. And it was like, they like, that's interesting, but I think she's just such a reserved character that like she would never like openly talk about that to anybody.
No. Because he literally says too that like she has huge admiration for Picard. Like she's been like paying attention to his career or whatever. And I was like, oh wow, like even he's like, huh.
Yeah, really? Because she kind of hates me.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's all she ever talked about was you, Picard. That's pretty funny. You look like a Force ghost.
Oh, because I'm all blue. Yeah. It's probably getting sunlight.
Well, it's just what happened after last week. After the show, you're the ghost of Shuttlepod 2.
I thought you would appreciate too the whole shuttle like leaving the Enterprise and then watching it. That was
it was cool
sequence.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
The thing that I really like, the two things that I was really happy with was one, it was really nice to see Chief O'Brien be in other parts of the ship than just the transporter room. I really liked that they had him go to the medical bay and like look at stuff. I don't know. Just like it made the ship feel more alive. It made it feel more realistic, like more grounded and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be Riker or Geordi or Worf. Like you can have other people.
Yeah, you have other crew member.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even having him like in the captain council meeting was cool. He was up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then even further in that scene, the thing I thought was really awesome was not only does O'Brien go to the med lab and deal with it and like he's overseeing it, but they have the other guy talk. Like he cuts back to another transport chief kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that guy talks.
Yeah. The guy that took the panels apart.
Yeah. But the thing that made me laugh, and I don't know if you caught it, was that guy to be memorable, you totally could tell the actor, which it must be the last name on our list there, who played Ensign.
Ensign, yeah.
He totally does this, like, look away, like, not look at the panel, swipe up to transport. Did you catch that?
Yo, yeah.
He does like a,
yeah. Like it's so mundane, yeah.
And I was like, that guy's totally doing it so that when he was showing his family and friends, like, check it out, look how cool I am.
Yeah. Plus, he turns his face like towards the camera specifically.
Right.
yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because like in reality, you would not, as like especially with something that like intense, you would be on that panel.
Yeah. I know that is pretty funny. So this is when she gets that arthritis in her elbow.
Yeah, this is right before they go to commercial. She gets the infection. Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. I liked that, how just like immediately she was just like, my elbow.
Yeah.
And you're like, uh-oh. I know old people have elbow problems.
It's happening. Intense arthritis inflammation. Yeah, it was funny. You would think, and I get it. I get that they're supposed to play it up because, like, you only have like 15 minutes left of the episode or whatever it was. But I just thought you would think she'd be like, oh no, like, oh, my arm is kind of like stiff or sore. Instead, it was almost like somebody was like stabbing her in the arm, and she was like,
She went to lift up the scanner, and it was like, it's too heavy. Yeah, I was like, uh-oh. I enjoy her and Data this episode together. You know, she didn't have to remind him constantly that he was a robot, you know, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, she gives him a little bit of a thing where she's like, yeah, I'm not currently up to specs. And then she's like, I'm sorry. The pain is tolerable. This is how I feel, you know, because Data wasn't like, it was just like legitimately, because he actually genuinely cared. He was asking, how is she doing?
And she's like, you'll be fine.
Right.
And he's like, well, that's not 100%, but also, like, I wasn't asking about myself. I was asking about you because I'm more human and care than you do. I like how sad that kid looked when he got transported back to the planet.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. But he was like leaned over the bed, like all like, and then got like transported back. I was like, wow, that's funny.
How do we not pay any of these people? They're telepathic and they don't talk. Perfect.
Beam them away.
The thing that I thought was really strange, and I was like, I don't get this. And maybe you understood it better than I did, but I really didn't understand it. It was really weird that she did like a live chief medical officer's log.
Yeah, it was weird.
Like to Picard and Riker. I was like, what?
Yeah. It was a little weird. Maybe, I don't know. I think that's the way they were, you know, she was doing like her send off to them and the ship, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just feel like she should have just been like, here are my last words, and then just said it instead of like, when you disconnect from these guys, you do your chief medical on. Like it was weird.
Yeah, it was a little strange. I think what is they're really trying to set up that like to the audience, like, oh yeah, she's dead. That was her last episode. Oh well. It was also funny too, like every time they would contact her about like stuff, and it was just like open comms to the whole base, like, hey, so we're gonna we found a way to fix you. Don't tell the others. Don't tell the others.
Don't speak of it. Yeah, okay, so that sounds like a perfect time for trivia.
Oh, not again.
All right, now you're overacting.
All right, so here we go. There's some trivia for you. It says in an earlier draft of the script, the episode had extensive scenes set aboard the Lantry, as opposed to the finished episode where only the ship's bridge, a redress of the battle bridge set, is seen on the view screen. The Lantry was also destroyed in the middle of the story rather than at the end.
Yep.
Another change from earlier draft of the script was the total deletion of a character named Rena, whose great beauty caused her fellow crew members to suffer a number of comic mishaps, and also had a romantic subplot with LaForge. In place of Rena, O'Brien was written into the episode to assist LaForge.
So there you go.
That's really funny.
So like you asked, like, oh, that's interesting. Why did they do that? It's because somebody had the bright idea of like, let's nix this whole Rena thing and this weird comedy love
What is that
connection.
even?
They're like, why don't we give the guy who's constantly like the actor Cole Meany, who's constantly on the show, like, let's give him something to do. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds like a great.
It's like finally somebody read the script and was like, "Hey, so this isn't TOS, so
right,
we can do other stuff now." So then it says here that the actress Patricia Smith and Deanna Muldaur had worked together on Planet Earth, a movie created by Gene Roddenberry as a TV plot. According to director Paul Lynch, Muldaur had some difficulty remembering her lines in this episode. The producer solved this problem by putting her lines on cue cards. Oh, that's interesting because I totally noticed in that scene he was looking a lot above the camera, right?
Yeah, totally. I think the scene we were just talking about with her chief medical log, like she's just reading it off of the cue card.
Totally was. She literally is like, so like this is like in view of her like on the ship bridge, and she's like this. She's like, this will be my final recording. Yeah, that's really funny that you put that in there because I did pick up on that. I was like, she's totally reading off screen. But they kind of tried to get away with it by making her eyes all old and droopy, you know? Like, well, she's just old and crazy. She's just staring off.
She's got cataract. She don't know where she's looking.
Yeah, she doesn't know nothing. She's old and stupid. Makeup designer Michael Westmore noted that the old age makeup in this episode was much easier than that for too short a season, where he had not been satisfied with the look of Clayton Ronor. Yeah. I did think it looked better this episode than that episode for sure.
100%.
This was part due to experience from the previous episode and in part because of Muldaur's more mature features. He commented, "We were able to make intermediate changes by using highlights, shadows, and a little stretch rubber. With Ronir, it was impossible to make those changes without using appliances. Overall, I was very happy with the end result."
Yeah, and he commented in the thing that I read too that like he just was like basically because Diana Muldaur is like older, they can just kind of like shade her wrinkles and a couple things on her face, and she just will naturally just look older. Where the other guy was like very young. And it's like, what do you do with this guy? The only way to make him look older is to slap all that fake, like, old man face on him. And that's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, you can kind of use the natural, like, contours.
Yeah.
Of, like, an already aged face instead of, like, trying to, like, imagine how you would look older. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, then the last trivia point here is that the genetic engineering of advanced children apparently ignores the fact that such engineering is banned and outlawed in the Federation.
So the two episodes that we discussed it, I think on the channel. Well, no, the one we didn't, but the augment episode in Enterprise that you watched dealt with it. So like this episode doesn't make sense with it, and also Strange New Worlds where they arrest number one
Luna.
because
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. So
yeah, it's weird.
The other thing
you can kind of let that show go because who knows what timeline that show's in. But
wow, yeah, of course. The other funny thing was that I thought I put there, but I obviously didn't. Was Cole Meany said he got the script and he was like looking at it and he was like, oh, I have a name.
Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah. Yeah, you had here at the end that this episode marks the first time Miles O'Brien is referred to as the transport chief.
Yeah.
And he said, like you said, the script showed up and suddenly he had a name. That's pretty good.
It's cool because all the times we've been referring to him, I think he's like either in the end credits or something. It's like, but he's not billed as like a special guest star. He was just, even if he talked, his name was like buried in the episode. This is the first time his name shows up as like a special guest star for the episode, like in the first part of the episode, like where we saw the McNamara guy and things like that. So,
yeah, that's cool.
Okay, yeah. So that was trivia, and we come back to hear the last part of Mike's review before we conclude the review ourselves.
These children can't survive in the lab once the parents are dead. That statement was said, I think, 2 times by Dr. Pulaski. Why? Why would they die? How would they die? If a physical room was isolated in the research lab, how would they die? And why would they survive on the Enterprise? If they had air, food, water, shelter, and warmth, there's really nothing that would stop them from surviving. When Dr. Pulaski volunteered to see if the children were safe to be around, she was so sure everything would be okay. I like that she did admit that she did make this mistake. And it was true, the only way to tell if the children were safe to be around was to have someone or something around them, so I did accept that. Once they started looking for the DNA sample of the doctor to try and fix her, they were going to try using the transporter. It was a good mixture of failure and success, and the transporter was taken over by Captain Picard, which I did like, because if something went wrong, he was taking responsibility for it. It ended on humor of why the doctor doesn't like the transporters. There was a moment of silence for the land tree, and there was an explosion of the land tree. For a brief second, I thought Captain Picard was going to salute when he raised his hand and then said engage.
Yeah, that's true. That's funny.
So I really like the part that he talked about, like, why were the kids going to die? Because, like, when they first bring it up, you're like, oh, okay, like children. And then remember, they beam him up and Worf's like, it's a trap.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's such a weird scene. It's like, no, it's not done materializing, idiot. Trickery. It's like, all right, relax, dude.
Well, that's because he wasn't a child. He was a grown man. He didn't like it. He didn't like that he wasn't a child.
Oh. Yeah, but then Picard specifically says, like, it's not done.
Right, yeah.
Like, he expected him to be, like, wrapped in this jelly, and it, like, didn't see it.
I don't know. It was weird. But they say that the kids are going to die, and, like, well, why? And then you're like, oh, okay. Like, I guess so. And then they cut to them. Pulaski's on the station, and they show the kids, and they're all, like, using magneto powers and moving things, and you're like, okay. And you're like, yeah, they're like, and they know how to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so why would they die? I think they were trying to say that if all the adults on the ship, all the scientists die, that, like, no one will, 10-year-olds don't know how to care for themselves, which is generally true. Like,
yeah.
If parents died in the house and 10-year-olds were there, like, generally they wouldn't know how to survive for a long time, and they would likely die. But I don't know. It was a weird thing.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that either. They just were like, well, you're condemning these people to death. And I was like, well, you created them, and it's your fault, and I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And then his last part there about Picard saluting was pretty funny.
Yeah, I did think that too. That was pretty funny. I specifically do like that scene where Picard's like, he's like, hey, so I'll take over the the transport station. I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that he took that responsibility, you know.
Yeah, totally.
Like
Yeah.
if anybody's making that call, and even like O'Brien seemed like, oh, thanks, thank you for doing that. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want to make that call. Yeah,
So keeping O'Brien and the transporter thing in line, I thought that this was like our real first like foray into Trek technobabble.
yes,
Because they hit you hard. It's like, well, can this happen? And they're like, well, I think that can happen, but only if you pull out the Flazatron, and if we take the Flazatron and we the
yeah,
Glip-on, it's like, oh, okay, like, of course,
yeah.
all of this makes sense.
I always feel like everything too in Star Trek that needs to happen for a plot is always like there's always a scene where they're like, hey, so what if we did it? And they're like, and Jordy. So in this one specifically, Jordy's like, wow, well, it's never been used that way, but I
Yes.
theoretically it could also work
Mm,
that way. Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
So, other than just having her mimic Bones not liking the transporter, I mean, is there any other reason why that's a thing? No.
I saw it for a second. I thought they were trying to set up. I was going to say to you, I wrote in my notes that maybe like Bones later in life found out that like the whole conspiracy or theory that you die when you transport for the very first time, because they do say reconstituted, which is kind of an interesting term to think of
Yeah,
applying to human life, or humanoid life, I should say.
yeah,
But the other thing is, and that's why it explains in the motion picture why he hates it. Because you think about it, in TOS, he's constantly using the transporter, and he might grumble, but he doesn't
mm,
really put up a stink until the motion picture.
yeah, that's right. I
So it's
feel
like,
like I wouldn't want to use it either, honestly, if I'm being honest.
it's a thing where right now, it's like, I know this is like roll your eyes, but I think you can understand where I'm coming from. Like, it's kind of like using airplanes and trains. Like, we're
Yeah.
not scared of those things because they're so part of our society. But
Hmm.
because transporters are like brand new, it's like rockets. It's like going up into space is scary. But if it became such a commonplace thing, I don't think we would be as worried about it.
Yeah. No, that's true.
I don't know. I think it's just supposed to be like doctors don't like the risk, because that's kind of what she says in the hallway, is like it's too much of a risk to use the transporter, like there's too
She
much
said she's worried that she'll just materialize out into space somewhere.
right.
And there is a risk of that. Like that is a very real like
Yeah, I
risk.
mean, she's not wrong. Like, there is a lot of problems that could
You're
go
relying on a
wrong.
human person to set the coordinates and then beam you. I mean, that's a
It's a
pretty big
lot.
risk. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Especially when the transport guy
um
is like engaged. Like, yeah,
yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to I wouldn't yeah, I wouldn't want to transport either.
But overall, we talked about it a lot in the animated series, and we've talked about it earlier in season one. Like, did you hate the fact that the transporter fixed the problem
No,
in this episode? Yeah, okay,
I've
sorry.
just kind of accepted that the transporter is like a very scientific,
Yeah.
it's a magical device that can fix stuff.
Okay.
I get that stuff stays like in stasis for like security and that kind of stuff. I did like how they had to track down like a past transported version of her, and they were like, "Oh, she's never used it on the ship."
Right.
And then they called the old ship, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we deleted that. Like after, we don't keep record of that stuff."
Yeah, and that's the two interesting things that happen in this stretch when they're doing that is, one, they find her hair follicle, but last I
Hmm.
knew you had to have the base part, because that's where your actual cells are. Like, you
I
can't
think
get human DNA from your literal
I think
follicle.
he said the follicle was attached when he looked at it, but I don't think they showed
Oh,
it.
maybe
I
that's what he meant.
also was very happy that Data is the one that picked up the hair because I was
Mm,
waiting for Riker to be like, "Oh, great hair," and like no, you just ruined that sample because.
true. That's a
So I was
great
very
point.
happy
That's a
that
great
Data
point.
picked it up. I was like, wow, I'll give you credit for that.
And the second thing I thought, does this sequence of events explain why Pulaski didn't go down to Ira Graves' planet because of the like warp the near warp transport. Like she wasn't going to use the transporter, so Dr. Solar went down.
I don't know. That kind of came up after they decided that they were doing both. So I don't think so.
No, totally. But like I was just thinking narratively, if we want to play Star Trek as real game.
Yeah.
Like
she would not have done that. She would not have done that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
She takes the shuttles everywhere. In fact, I was going to give her her own shuttle.
Yeah. I thought it was really strange that they blow up the Lantry kind of close to the Enterprise. Like, so you're not worried about the warp core breaching, like just a few meters away from the Enterprise.
Nah, it doesn't matter. I also think it's a little funny that they did blow it up too. I thought like there's no other option. There was no way they could like take it to a station and then people could like sterilize it.
This is like the exact point that you're making that I made is like you could easily, and I know it's like a little morbid, but you could easily beam everybody off and then like they don't come back. Like you basically dematerialize everybody and then just like erase their pattern buffers in the transporter and they're dead, right? It's no different than what they did. They blew everybody up.
Yeah.
But the only reason you would blow up the entire ship is because sterile and or inanimate objects carry the disease, right? It's like, well, the seats and the walls and the carpeting and consoles, all the disease would be on it. You're like, yeah, there's no way of salvaging this, so we'll have to blow it up. It's like, well, if that's the case, it's like Data then is infected, the Sterilite is infected.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
I know.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. The shuttle pod, the shuttlecraft is infected. It's like, yeah.
And on top of that, they already had used the transporter to filter out the disease from Pulaski's old DNA sample. So they would have been able to have a strain of it that they could have found a cure for it or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it just was interesting. I don't know if it's supposed to be like, that's the end of that ship's run. But I was like, that's interesting that they're blowing it up and not,
I think it's.
I guess in the future they don't care about money and how much money costs. Just build another one. Those people will be happy to have a job for nothing.
Also, all of those family members are like, yeah, you don't get to bury your loved one. They're gone. But no, I think it's like what they used to do in old old ship dives, right? Like they come across a diseased ship and they would just sink it. You know? So I think that was supposed to be like kind of how they deal with,
That'll have no lasting effects on anything.
No, not at all.
I like Picard giving Pulaski a hug.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Also was really funny in connection with what you're saying when he sees Data and he starts to talk to him. He's like, hey, and he's like, hey, it's good to see you again.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, thank you. And then he continues talking to him.
Data, if there was some way we could, first of all, it's nice to see you back on the ship. I was very worried about it. Anyway, if we could, how do we get the doctor?
And Data's like, well, theoretically, he's like, stop. He's like, I don't want to, not if you could do it. Like, he's just chat GPT him. He's like, no, don't give me this parameter, give me this parameter.
I love when Picard asks him something and he will talk about it, and then Picard will be like, Data. And he's like, yes, sir. He just like stops talking.
Yeah. Well, that is the review of Unnatural Selection. But before we end the episode, let's do the thing that everyone's been waiting for.
Caleb.
Okay, Caleb. Who gets the Erica Ortegas Award for being the most unlikable?
The kid that got beamed aboard. Don't like him. Yeah, I don't like him.
That's really funny. That's really, really funny. I thought for sure you were going to say the Kingsley lady.
That's funny. No, I enjoyed the lady. I enjoyed that the lady was like in her 60s and she's like, Doctor, I'm 25 years old. No, you're not. I can tell which one is makeup and which one's not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, good choice. Well, next is the Elizabeth Cutler Award for being the most forgettable.
You know what? I'm going to give it to Riker. Riker didn't really do anything this episode.
That's a good point. Yeah, he really doesn't. I am trying to remember, like Riker. Yeah, he really doesn't.
Doesn't do much.
He
Yeah.
he repeats what Worf says in the conference room, and he tells Worf to do something, and then I think he does one. I think there is one thing that he does specifically, but that's about it.
Usually, Riker is a very pivotal part of the episodes. He does a lot. He beams down. He does the stuff.
True. Well, next is the Mugatu Award for the best alien of the episode.
Oh, that's easy. It's gonna be Worf again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's gonna be Worf a lot of the times, I feel like, in the season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't put Deanna in like the alien box. She just doesn't fit it for me.
No. Well, next is the Trip Tucker Award for the MVP of the episode.
Oh, that's Pulaski.
Nice. Wow. I think
be the only first and last, baby. First and last, baby. First and last.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did what a doctor should do,
We'll have to see how that is overall for season 2. I'll be interested to see if she gets it again.
She won't.
I totally agree that she is the MVP of the episode. She takes some big risks. So yeah. Okay, next is the Spock Award for the best line of the episode.
I like her interaction with her and Data when Data was like, he was saying that he was worried about her, not himself. He even does that thing where he like scans her earlier and he's like, yeah, all your systems are functioning.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I did. I liked their interaction this week together. I thought it was good.
Yeah. Nice.
But I like them on the shuttle pod. Any one of those was good.
Okay. Yeah. Good choice. I like it a lot. Next is the Shran Award for the best action sequence.
Oh, that's when they blow up the Lantry.
Nice. Blowing up the Lantry is really funny and cool. Boom.
The only action on the episode, so yeah.
Sure. So next is the NX Award for some sweet ship stuff.
I actually enjoyed seeing the docking bay more this week.
Yeah, I kind of thought you would. I honestly thought you would because I took note of it. Yeah, it was
got
nice.
some cool doors. The docking bay doors, when they like shut, it like has that little gap piece on the part that like fits in.
Yep.
And then when the outside docking bay comes up, you can see the force field.
Oh yeah,
underneath it. I thought that was cool. And then when the shuttle pod turns on, they turned the opacity lights up on the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I like seeing the docking bay. It was cool. It made it feel bigger and like, oh wow, that's actually cool.
Yeah, it is cool. No, it really
there's
is
a full bay.
Next is the Porthos Award for the cheesiest thing of the episode.
I think it's Worf yelling trap or trickery, whatever he yells.
Yeah, okay. That's funny. That's really funny.
It's really like one of his only lines, and it was like,
sure.
He just immediately
kill it. Yeah.
It's just so funny how different he is from season 1 to season 2. It's like they forgot in season 1 that he's a Klingon.
Yeah.
And now season 2, that's all he does is that kind of stuff.
Well, I think to your point, I think that's a pure example because remember we read in season 1 that like he wasn't supposed to be on the show. He was supposed to be like in the intro to show like, yeah, Klingons and humans aren't at war anymore. It's old news, right? We're not doing TOS stuff. Klingons are old hat. And then they realized like it must have been like studio execs or something were like, oh, we love that. We love that the alien's on the bridge. That's cool. And so they keep him, but didn't intend for him. But then they're like, well, he's cool and awesome, so he'll do all the cool security stuff. But it's like, yeah, but you have a person who is chief of security. It's like, yeah, we got it. We'll have that other guy do it. It was not in security. And then now we have the Heart of Glory episode where you're supposed to suddenly care that he's a Klingon. And so then they just go full tilt in season 2. It's like, oh, he's a Klingon.
Yep.
He loves everything Klingon. And you're like, okay, but you didn't establish that.
You're like,
in fact, you've given us nothing but information that like he shouldn't know anything about his Klingon heritage. But
well, look at his head.
Yeah, yes.
Obviously, he's a Klingon idiot. Look at this beautiful sash. We give him a nice sash.
Well, lastly is the Star Trek Enterprise Award for the best scene of the episode.
I like when Pulaski beams back to the ship and it worked. And they're like, and Picard hugs her. That I like. It's the best scene in the episode.
Wow.
Yep.
I gotta tell you surprised me with some of these. That's good.
Well, you know.
Well, excellent pick of the trophies. Best scene that's very good. But now it's your turn to go down to the comment section and tell us who gets the Popcorn Award for being the best actor of the episode. Was it Diana Muldaur? Was it Brett Spiner? Was it Patrick Stewart? Maybe it was Cole Meany.
It was the child.
No, it was the child. And while you're down there typing in who gets the Popcorn Award, let us know what you thought of the episode. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you want more of it? Or did you feel like this episode was a little bit of an unnatural selection? Let us know down below.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Next week's episode. Caleb's not ready for it. He's just not ready for it. It is a matter of honor. Get to see.
I don't go by the titles anymore because the titles mean nothing.
Yeah, they mean like ever so slightly something, but yeah, sometimes they don't at all.
Like this one was the Unnatural Selection, which makes you think that like an alien is gonna come and like kill off people that he deems. And really what it is in the very beginning of the episode, all those people are dead for being old. And Captain Picard's like, well, they died of natural causes. And she's like, not that natural.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So we have that to look forward to next week. I'm excited for that episode.
Good. I'll hate it.
But that's good. We want you to.
I know.
So, as always, if you like the review, like the video. If you dislike the review, dislike the video. Share it with all your friends and family and Trek enthusiasts. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And ring that bell so you can watch the episode as soon as it comes out. And when this video is over, make sure you head on over to Caleb's channel. Caleb has a fun prop channel. We also cover a lot of different pop culture things like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, things of that nature. So make sure you head over there to catch us talking about other things over there. Caleb, do you have anything that the people should know about that they should be looking for?
We put out our Dragon Ball episode last week. That's good.
Nice.
It's getting some good views. I think it's the thumbnail of us in Speedos really is what's doing it, but
Totally.
Yeah. But yeah, no, there's some cool stuff over there. Check it out. Watch some old videos.
Yeah. Always
working
something
on
to watch.
Stuff, yeah.
So we appreciate everybody doing the fun, excellent things down below, making our channel look so great, building a good community. We look forward to reading your comments and hailing frequencies open. And we thank Ed, Mark Starr, once again for his Patreon support. We appreciate it. This has been the Retrek Review. We appreciate you guys watching. And Caleb, send us out.
All right, computer. I need a holodeck program that's capable of destroying from my office. End program.
See you guys.
Yeah. Shuttlepod 1, this is Dr. House from the USS Drake. Do you read me? Shuttlepod 1. Lost him.